All right, welcome back to Bootstrapping to Billions. As we close out the new year here, we want to think long term, right? We're all thinking about our business and what we need to do, especially going into next year. What I want to challenge you in today's episode to do is not just think about this coming year, but to really think about the long term equity of your business and how you're going to be able to manage that for the next 5, 10, 15, 25 years, all the way through until exit. This is going to be a really good episode. It's a foundational episode in the form of learning exactly what long-term equity management is, what it is as an industry and the governing bodies behind it, and then the key concepts that you can then ultimately extract and apply into your business and understand why it matters to you. Let's jump into it. All right. So in today's episode, we're going to be talking about long-term equity management. This is a concept that has come up on the pod a number of times throughout the year. I've paid attention to that and we made note, and we figured this is a year-end episode. Quite literally, we are in this weird hiatus of time between the holidays and the new year. And this is a great opportunity to take advantage of that and align it with what people are thinking about, which is the long term, right? We're thinking about the future coming into the new year. When we talk about long-term equity management, I quickly want to jump into what it is. It is a discipline, right? It is a profession, first and foremost. It is a profession that is governed by the Institute for Long-Term Equity Management, which is the governing body that provides the licensing and certification for anybody who does this, right? So if you're working with somebody and they're coming to you as your long-term equity manager, you should make sure that they are licensed and certified through the Institute of Long-Term Equity Management, which you can actually search for everybody through the registry, and you can find people and make sure that they are in good standing, right? So that's definitely something that you should do. But essentially, this gives us a level of etiquette and professionalism and designation and standards to be able to operate within this profession. And the goal of this profession is to be able to help folks build long-term equity in their business, which is ultimately treating the business as an asset, forcing us to help owners not think in the short term, but to think in the long term. And the key thing is to ultimately avoid bad decisions that create risk, right? That's essentially, at the end of the day, what we're trying to steward folks through when we're coming on as long-term equity managers for your firm. You're trying to reduce irreversible ownership errors, which I think is just like a perfect exact statement of what is, right? It's trying to identify irreversible ownership errors and avoid those mistakes proactively. And in doing so proactively, you're making good timely decisions in ideally an ownable cadence of accountability that allows you to build equity sustainably over time, right? So in terms of getting back into this, long-term equity management, it's all about the discipline of increasing durability, profitability, and transferability so that your business becomes more valuable every year, right? The goal of the business is definitely to stay in it, right? Number one is like the goal of business is stay in business. But as you're staying in business, you want to build a more valuable business over time. And there's certain things that you can do to be able to achieve this. You work with a long-term equity manager to help facilitate this, right? And long-term equity management is the act of doing so. So you're not looking at businesses as, oh, they look successful, but at the end of the day, behind the curtain, everything is like rush, 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 short-term thinking. It's a job. It's not an asset, right? You're thinking about things not in the lens of just income, but you're really looking at it from the lens of equity, because income does not equal equity, right? $1 million of revenue that's super owner dependent, meaning like the business owner needs to be there to be able to generate that. Low value when it comes time to sell, or looking at equitable value in exchange in the market, versus something that maybe is making less money, but is not really at all required owner dependent. Like it's being driven off of systems, and that's high value. It's highly transferable, right? So you're looking at things that ultimately will reduce the concept of this being an asset, because what we're trying to do is avoid it being a job, We don't want it to be a hustle. We don't want it to be growth at all costs. We want to look at running a business for the longest period of time in the most value possible way, which is the definition of building an asset at the end of the day. That is what long-term equity management is, right? So it's avoiding short-term thinking, and it's optimizing around long-term thinking, which is driving towards freedom eventually in your business. And that's going to be freedom when it comes time to sell and you're getting the most value that you can for your business in the market at sale so you can hit your freedom number. But it also comes in the form of freedom from actually working in your business. So you could be working on your business so that your business feels like an asset that you actually own, and you can actually maybe even achieve an operational exit, which means that you can exit the business without actually having to even sell it. You can still put profit in your pocket without having to have a job working in the business every single day. Again, the definition of an asset, right? So it's all about managing profitability, risk, the structure of the business, and then making sure that the optionality that you're looking for in your organization, the business that you're building, actually exists, right? This is what a long-term equity manager is going to focus on with you, these things, because all of these things are the things that impact the value of a business over time, right? So this is what we're focusing on so that you can avoid those irreversible decisions that are potentially bad. Profitability is pretty important, right? We want to focus on things that are predictable, repeatable. We want good, healthy margins, right? You want, solid financials and books that somebody else from the outside, like a capital partner or a potential buyer, can come in and trust, right? You want to be able to operate your business so that you can manage your profit waterfall or your profit falls appropriately, right? You want to be able to trust and operate with high levels of financial integrity so you can make good, timely decisions in your business, right? Ultimately, at the end of the day, we're trying to remove as much risk as we can in the business, because removing risk is the silent killer, right? Removing risk also means that you're removing owner dependency, which means that you're increasing the transferability of the business, right? You want to remove risk from your customer base, which means you don't want to just have a few paying customers. You want to have a lot of paying customers so the customer concentration is healthy, right? So one customer can't tank your business. You don't want to have operational chaos. You want to have documented, proven, profitable processes, which we define as profit flows here at Bootstrapper. Long-term equity management defines it elsewise. But it's all about not having operational chaos so that you can have consistency in terms of your operation, which means consistency of inputs so that you can have consistency of outputs, and ultimately consistency in terms of the financial flow of things, which is a less risky business, right? All of that converts into structure that actually transforms effort into equity, right? Because everything is documented. It doesn't rely on you to do it. It's something that other folks can come in and you can teach, train, equipped. You can run things to a cadence of accountability, a weekly retrospective, a monthly closeout, a quarterly business review, an annual review, strategic review, right? Which is really what you should be doing now, right? You're in the situation with optionality so that you can decide if you want to sell it, decide if you want to go and borrow against your equity, right? Decide if you want to potentially partner with folks. And then you can step back potentially. If you step back, you can achieve an operational equity and you can maybe even hold it indefinitely in the form of like a holdco type structure or a family office or any other wealth creation type of tool that you want to be able to approach, right? The cost of ignoring doing this, the cost of ignoring not building long-term equity, is the reality that many business owners face, right? So we know that statistically speaking, 50% of business owners are not going to last or survive the first 5 years of being in business. Only 1/3 of business owners will survive the first 10 years of being in business. Of the folks that get into business, less than 7% of businesses will ever transact and exit successfully. And that's the stats of that is all because of the cost of ignoring these things. It results in forced exits. It results in, more often than not, bad capital, which is something that is really a huge plague on the market. And it's putting you in positions where oftentimes you'll regret the decisions and you're not making those good, timely decisions, which, realistically are potentially irreversible in terms of ownership errors, right? what we want to do is try to we don't want to make these common mistakes, right? We want to get on top of them in advance. We want to be able to uh, uh, be prepared for an exit years in advance, right? So that you're never being forced or rushed into any sort of decision. It's all about being kind of slow and steady. It's about essentially being simple in your approach, simple in your process, simple in your mental model, so that it's almost boring, right? Good businesses at the end of the day are kind of boring businesses, and you're just doing certain things consistently over a very long period of time, right? Operators manage income, entrepreneurs manage growth, investors manage equity. We want you to think with an entrepreneur's mindset, which is really taking the mindset of an investor because you're trying to build your business into an asset, right? When equity is managed well, income becomes optional. Capital terms will ultimately improve. You won't find yourself in bad capital. You'll find yourself in better capital. I don't know if there's ever really this true meaning of the word good capital, essentially. But at the end of the day, good capital would come from your customers, realistically. And then your exits become a choice, which is the definition of exiting with ownership, right? So, like when we're talking about exit with ownership, it's like we want you to have the freedom to decide when and how you exit. When we're talking about wealth at the end of the day, and we're talking about wealth through your business, you got to think about and change your perspective, because if you change your perspective, you can change your approach, right? Ownership is wealth that is built before the exit. And that's what long-term equity management at the end of the day is really trying to get you prepared for. It's trying to get you proactive into taking proactive ownership decisions and running methodically with your business so that you're actually building wealth in your business far before you ever actually need to exit your business. And again, it creates that optionality that maybe you never actually sell, right? Because again, a business that somebody else is going to want to buy is a business that you probably will never want to sell. And that is the real goal in terms of long-term equity management. So if you're thinking about potentially running a more profitable business, if you're thinking about running a more durable business, if you're thinking about running a more transferable business so that you could teach, train, equip somebody else to come in and maybe achieve an operational exit or actually sell it, and you want to get the maximum potential value, then you should be working with a long-term equity manager, right? One of the firms that you can be working with is ours at Bootstrapper Capital. And then you could also be adopting the platform Bootstrapper.ai, which is quite literally built to provide long-term equity management with a cadence of accountability, right? You can come in, you can take a free assessment. Our goal here is to build software that's just so simple. It transforms your business into a valuable, durable, transferable asset. And we highly promote that when you're partnering with Bootstrapper, or if you're adopting Bootstrapper.ai as an operating system for your business, an ownable operating system for your business, that you also work with a long-term equity manager, which if you come through, will connect you with one if that's the route in which you decide to go. And everybody that we partner with are all accredited firms. They're all accredited long-term equity managers through the Institute of Long-Term Equity Management. Till next time, trust the process, commit to the journey. Think about this because this is the time to think, right? This is year end. It's an opportunity to look out into the future and plan backwards, right? Which is again, all of this, starts with the exit in mind. And then we're systematically working our way back to how to achieve the maximum value of the exit that we want to design, right? So that's a function of what we're trying to achieve here. This is the time to do it. Till next time, trust the process, commit to the journey.
If I could do it all again.
Struggling business? It's time to exit with ownership. Join the Exit Studio. Build equity. Unlock capital. Exit with ownership. Keep it simple.
I feel nauseous, believe me. Never had a lot of shit come easy. Had to work hard, struggle just to be me. Had to rise up just so they could see me. Did what I had to do just to feed me. And what was left over I put towards my dreaming. But the only thing in life that has meaning are the things you gotta work for, believe me. Take into your hands a plan. Your own hands can land your own brand. And damn, I feel like no one takes accountability. They want the credibility, convincingly unwilling to put in the hours it takes to get some power. Don't be fucking sour. Take a cold shower. Scream until you're louder. Work until you're prouder. And all the doubters.
You gotta have that grit, that hustle to make it in this city. Never give up.